What is going on with PlayStation right now? That's the question a lot of people are asking after Sony Interactive Entertainment made the surprising decision to shut down Dark Outlaw Games, a studio that had barely even gotten off the ground. This isn't just another routine business move. It's part of a growing pattern of layoffs, studio closures, and what looks like a major shift in strategy for one of the biggest names in gaming. And when something like this happens, especially to a first party studio that was just formed, it's worth taking a closer look at what it really means. The report first started gaining traction on Reset Era, but it was later confirmed by Jason Schreier, who has a strong track record when it comes to industry news. According to Schreier, PlayStation has shut down Dark Outlaw Games, a studio formed just last year and led by Jason Blundell, a developer many players recognize from his work on Call of Duty's Zombies mode. On top of that, this move is part of a broader round of layoffs affecting around 50 employees, with additional cuts impacting PlayStation's mobile development efforts. That's a lot to unpack, especially when you consider how recently the studio was created and the expectations that likely came with it. What makes this situation even more concerning is the history behind it. Before Dark Outlaw Games, Blundell was involved with Deviation Games, a studio that was working on a PlayStation project but ultimately shut down in 2024 before releasing anything. It's important to clarify that Deviation wasn't owned by PlayStation, but it was developing a game for them, which still ties it closely to the broader PlayStation ecosystem. After that studio closed, PlayStation brought Blundell in to form Dark Outlaw Games, essentially giving him another shot under their first party umbrella. And now, less than a year later, that studio is gone too. When you look at that sequence of events, it doesn't just feel like bad luck. It starts to look like a deeper issue with how projects are being planned, funded, or managed. Now, let's talk about the layoffs because that's a critical part of the story. Around 50 people losing their jobs might not sound massive compared to some of the bigger layoffs we've seen across the tech and gaming industries, but context matters. These are developers, creatives, and professionals who are part of a brand new studio, likely working on something that never even got the chance to be revealed, let alone released. On top of that, the mention of cuts to mobile development suggests that this isn't an isolated decision. This looks more like a company-wide reassessment of priorities where certain initiatives, especially newer or riskier ones, are being scaled back or eliminated entirely. So what kind of strategy shift are we looking at here? Based on the information available, it seems like PlayStation may be pulling back from some of its more experimental ventures. Over the past few years, there's been a noticeable push toward live service games and expansion into mobile, areas that offer long-term revenue potential, but also come with significant risk and development challenges. If those efforts aren't meeting expectations internally, it would make sense for PlayStation to reevaluate and refocus on what it does best. High-quality, single-player experiences and established franchises that have consistently delivered results. But if that's the case, then the shutdown of a brand new studio raises questions about why it was created in the first place and whether there was a clear long-term vision behind it. Another possibility is that PlayStation is trying to cut its losses early. In the past, we've seen companies pour years of time and millions of dollars into projects that ultimately get canceled late in development. If Dark Outlaw Games was working on something that wasn't coming together as expected, shutting it down early could be seen as a financially responsible move. But even if that's true, it still highlights a problem at the planning stage. Studios aren't just built overnight. They require investment, recruitment, leadership, and direction. Closing one so quickly suggests that something went wrong at a fundamental level, whether it was the concept, the execution, or the alignment with PlayStation's broader goals. From a player's perspective, this kind of news can be frustrating because it represents lost potential. We'll likely never know what Dark Outlaw Games was working on, what ideas were being explored, or what kind of experience they might have delivered. And when you combine that with the layoffs, it becomes more than just a business story. It becomes a reminder of how volatile the gaming industry can be, even for teams backed by major companies. For PlayStation fans, it also introduces a bit of uncertainty. While the platform still has strong exclusives and a solid reputation, moves like this can shake confidence, especially when they start to form a pattern. At the same time, it's important to keep things in perspective. The entire gaming industry has been going through a period of restructuring with layoffs happening across multiple companies, not just PlayStation. Rising development costs, shifting market trends, and changing player expectations are forcing companies to adapt. sometimes in ways that aren't immediately visible from the outside. So while this situation raises valid concerns, it could also be part of a larger adjustment period as PlayStation refines its strategy for the future. Still, when you look at everything together, the closure of Deviation Games before it released a project tied to PlayStation, the creation of Dark Outlaw Games, and now its shutdown within a year, it's hard not to see this as more than just a coincidence. It suggests that there may be challenges in how new projects are being initiated or supported, and that's something worth paying attention to moving forward. Whether this ultimately leads to a stronger, more focused PlayStation or signals deeper issues will depend on what happens next and how the company communicates its direction. At the end of the day, this is one of those stories that feels bigger than a single headline. It's about strategy, risk, and the realities of modern game development. It's about how even experienced developers and well-funded studios aren't guaranteed success. And it's about what all this means for the future of PlayStation as a platform. Hopefully, we'll get more clarity in the coming months. But for now, this is definitely something to keep an eye on. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And if you want even more content, check out my Patreon, where the latest exclusive is a deep dive into whether PCs and Xboxes are becoming the same platform. It's a really interesting topic that I think you'll enjoy. Let me know your thoughts on this situation down in the comments below, and as always, game on.